ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Paint Desk Ramblings. Though this might be an episode more focused on rambling and less on painting, but we'll see. The topic for tonight is a homebrew project that's made for the Ninth Age. It's the Grand Companies of the Mercenary States. I might call this episode a homebrew homage, if I turn it into a series of some sort and do other projects as well in the future. But for now, this is what we'll focus on. So I'm joined tonight by none other than the creator of this project, EdSteiner. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for having me on tonight.
No problem at all, happy to have you. So I think we'll start with just a little short intro about you and how you came about starting this project. So who are you?
Well, first off, my name's EdSteiner. I'm here in the United States, living just outside of Chicago. I've been involved with tabletop miniature gaming since played a myriad of gaming systems, Battletech, a whole myriad of gaming systems. I was involved with a friendly local gaming store for many years as a part-time owner, so had a lot of experience bringing people into the hobby, talking to people, doing stuff, and really trying to advance the joys of tabletop gaming. Within the Ninth Age, I have a myriad of really cool hats that I wear. One is I'm involved with the latex coding team, so we're the guys behind the scenes making the books look as professional and fabulous as possible. For the other portion of the game, I'm the lead coder for Lone Wolf's Army Builder 3.x Army building tool, which provides rules validation, statistics, and stats, which many tournament organizers require. You to provide lists in a format that the Ninth Age has designated, and our tool prints those lists out as well as validates them to ensure that all of the required things are hit, such as core and comp relationships, army build choice, 0, 2, 0, 3 restrictions are met, and a myriad of other things. And then lastly, obviously, this project here that's been sort of a passion project of mine in getting preparation for this call, I actually went back and looked at the initial design of this book, and it actually has a publication date of late 2016 was when I first really started chewing into this book, and it's been 3.5, almost 4 years now, and this is where we're at today.
Yeah, awesome. So it's been a long passion project then.
Yes, it has.
So what kind of started you on this book? What made you pick it up?
Well, one of the things is when I started working at that friendly local gaming store was right when the miniature range for this army was released by that miniature company, and it was the army that I had collected in its entirety. So I happened to have every single model from this model range in my collection. And as the game transitioned through the various editions and became the Ninth Age, it was sort of like what's out there, and encoding the Army Builder program really started to show me a lot of the background math that the Ninth Age is built on. I know we read various forum posts about core tax and restriction builds and stuff like that. If you really get out, and I say you get out the math calculator, there's a lot of well-developed design in how things in the Ninth Age have been created, particularly with the relevant relationship between ability stats and the end result cost and points. And in coding for Army Builder, I really had a very good sense of what something costs. And in working with other developers in the Ninth Age, really was able to sort of put together what item X would cost in that model range that, again, was not currently supported in the Ninth Age. And that's how we got to where we're at today.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So just to make clear, this other company that you worked at was Games Workshop then, and the Dogs of War?
No, it was not Games Workshop. It was a friendly local gaming store called Challenge Games. We carried a full line of Games Workshop products, in addition to BattleTech, Silent Death, role-playing material. So we were a full-service gaming store. Okay. Now, again, Games Workshop was a big portion of it, but it wasn't the only product that we had.
Yeah, okay. But this project is then obviously based on the Dogs of War from Games Workshop. The range of
correct is to support the miniature line that the Games of Workshop Dogs of War had. Yes,
which was a beautiful line. That's a real shame that it didn't continue with it. So
some of the nuances in just some of the models, and again, Games Workshop is an excellent model company.
For sure.
I tend to disagree with their decision on how they treat rules, but that I think could be a podcast for many more episodes.
Yeah, it's been discussed endlessly by both on this channel and on others. But that's a fine introduction. We'll get into the depths of this project, this army book, looking at it from a background perspective in the terms of fluff of the Ninth Age, and then the rules for it, and finally some miniatures, where I think we'll get a little tour of Ed's collection, as that's an excellent starting point for sure. But before we get into that, we have the hobby spotlight. So what's going on in your hobby at the moment?
Well, surprisingly, with the obvious COVID-19 restrictions, I've just spent a lot of time not really painting new stuff, but touching up a lot of stuff that over the years I've sort of pushed out and never really refined. I've gone back in and I've uniformed up bases, trying to make everything much more streamlined. And again, I play a myriad of other gaming systems, so I've had some opportunity to have some really fun games, Flames of War, Bolt Action, and again, when we take a tour, you're going to see I set up a bunch of stuff on the table from the other game stuff, just because miniatures are always fun to look at, even if they're not the game system that we're talking about today. Miniatures are just always fun to look at. So for me, it's basically been going back and cleaning up a lot of my haste that I've had over the years, because I've got time.
Yeah. Excellent use of the time for sure. It's I can speak for myself, of course, that you tend to leave a few projects unfinished and things like that. So it's always good to have the chance to catch up on those. That's for sure. So for myself, I'm working on a little model for my skirmish warband. Also, she will be in my Emperor Zornstall army. So she's going to be used as a prelate there. It's a model from Hassle-Free Miniatures. Let's see, I think I have the name here somewhere. Sister Morigana. So with a nice big hammer and all of that. She's going to be fun to paint up.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you. I painted a few of Hassle-Free Miniatures models before, very nice quality, and this one doesn't seem to be an exception. So, really looking forward to digging into this one. It's gonna take a while though, but I'm happy to take the time with her.
That is the fun. Now, I will note, with my painting, I've got to have a magnifying light. So I do most of my painting with a big round magnifying light, just because I find it so much easier.
I've been thinking about getting one of those myself for the really tedious parts. So should probably invest in that. Though all those kinds of investments seem to have been postponed during the COVID crisis for me. I'm just sitting at home and working with what I've got. Don't want to expose myself in unnecessarily. And I'm sure I could order it somewhere and get it delivered, but it just feels unnecessary during this time. So we'll move on to some news then. What's been going on the past 2 weeks?
Well, good question. Obviously, we've seen the release of the Infernal Dwarves, and I have that coded for Army Builder, and I'll tell you, reading through the book, since I had early access to it with coding part of the LaTeX team, but now I've just sort of had a chance to sit back and read through the book, and everything when it first comes out, people are going to say this or that. I'll tell you, I really think the design team did their homework. There's going to be some things that may have to be recosted, slight adjustments, some verbiage, but I was really pleased with the last three. In theory, the three full Army books that have been released. I really think the design team has done their homework in crafting a really good product, and I think it just really gives a lot of positive energy to, as we craft what is talked about, the Dark Elves, or in this case Dread Elves, and the Vermin Swarm as our next 2 books in the works. Again, I think they've got a lot of really good stuff that they can build on based on some of the design concepts that they've gone about. And like I said, I think it really shows in the finished product. Like I said, and again, most recently with the Infernal Dwarfs release, the fact is that once you chew down into the Army, it really provides everything that was expected from the Infernal Dwarves range of rules.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a wonderful release. I'm a bit sad to see that they didn't release the full book at the same time, but of course it's been delays on that, and they have had some issues with it. So I think it's maybe a good compromise to do the slim one beforehand. But I mean, I'm quite blown away by the content of this slim book. It looks like a really fun army, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So I agree, they have really pulled this one off excellently. And I'm looking forward to future books as well.
So am I.
So also new is the Advanced Magics that was released a little over 2 weeks ago, I think. I've had the chance to look into that a little bit more now, and I don't know, have you seen this?
I have a copy of it. I'm starting to craft how I'm going to encode it into the Army Builder tool. So
Okay.
I've basically been making a lot of notes because, one of the things that the tool has to have where certain restrictions come into play, and a lot of that requires some background code. So I've sort of been using a lot of post-it notes to say, if X equals Y, then Z type of, code. It's just important because, again, I like the tool to be accurate. So we fix the bugs as soon as they're found. My joke is, you fix them or you find them, I fix them type of thing. But I've had a chance to read through the book, found a lot of neat things in there, and sort of planning out how I'm going to encode it.
Yeah, cool. So you are including all the supplements as well in this tool. I think.
In this tool, we currently have the 3 supplemental Army books. Askelanders, Markar, and Occultists are already encoded. I was starting to develop the Giants, and then was sort of told to slow walk that because they anticipated some updates to the Giant book in the reasonably near future, and they didn't want me to waste time to code something that may be adjusted in the, like I said, short-term near future.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I only glanced through the Advanced Magics a little bit, but I think it looks really interesting. This flux mechanic that they have, where it gets pushed back and stronger and back and forth, seems interesting. Like a higher level game in a way, and the new spells as well seem really interesting. So
yeah, that was one of the things that really caught my attention, was how the new spells integrate themselves fully within the spells that we already have in the basic rules.
Yeah.
So again, I thought some really good thought went in on how to merge the mechanics of an advanced system into the basic rules, where you're not discounting the basic rules in the advanced system, you're building on them with the advanced system, which is always important.
Yeah, definitely. So I look forward to trying this out some once I get back to playing again. It's been a while now, and also maybe host some tournaments using these rules as well. I think that could be interesting to mix things up of it.
Yeah. As for tournaments, I am personally sad that we lost Adepticon here in the U.S., which I've been affiliated with for many years as an event host as well as a judge. Unfortunately, what happened, so you can't go cry over spilled milk, but
No.
just it was a loss of a big event that I always look forward to, because there's always a lot of really cool new products being put out by vendors that are just a great chance to say, wow, this is a really cool marker, or wow, these are some really cool things to use on the battlefield to remind me, hey, dummy, don't forget to do X or Y. Those are the things that you kick yourself in the behind when you forget to do something really important, like, oh yeah, I was supposed to rally this unit and I forgot.
And then it's too late to go back and change things and all of that. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, Adepticon is one of the tournaments that I have heard of from across the pond, and actually been thinking about maybe someday going over there just to visit that event. Well, it seems like a really cool place.
Well, we've the past few years we've had really good numbers, and the last 2 years, Mr. Owl from the Ninth Age has actually made a trip to the event and participated as a player, and it was really a nice experience to meet him and meet some other people in the Ninth Age community from, as I said, outside of our local gaming area of the Midwest.
Yeah. That I can definitely understand. I should get myself out just to some more tournaments around in Europe to start with, perhaps. But Adepticon has certainly been one of the places I've been thinking about making a visit to one day.
Well worth the effort.
All right. So enough about that particular release. There's also been the rules explained in figures released recently. I haven't looked into this that much, but I think it's a useful document. It's complex rules situation, and they write about it and explain it a little bit with some nice figures. So it's a good tool, I think.
I had a chance to look at that one as well. What it really, I think, is going to be for, it's going to be for the 2% of questions where you have a very complex activity of, well, if A and B have already happened and C is the next logical result, how do these other variables influence choices A and B? And, 95% of the time, those situations are never going to happen on our battlefields. But the 5% that it does, they've taken the time to develop some very well visualized diagrams and figures of, okay, you have A and B, now C, here's how it's going to affect A and B in the end. And I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. These are very, very fringe cases, that's for sure. It's
I suspect they came up in a tournament or event somewhere.
Yeah, some of these I know have come up during tournaments. The same with the FAQ. Sometimes I know actually one such event happened to me. That was about. It was a really strange situation where the line of sight arc was mathematically exactly tangent to a base. And do you see that unit then or not? If it's actually just tangent to it. It's not within it, it's not without, it's just grazing it, because it was after a combat, so they stood in a line in a certain way, and then the combat split apart, and then they stood there still, and the question was, can you see them? So I know that has been clarified in one of these documents now. So
Excellent.
It's really just weird fringe cases, and it's good to have that explained. And it's also good to not have it explained in the main rulebook, because then it becomes even more heavy to read through. You have to draw the line somewhere. So yeah, it's good to see them keeping that updated. I haven't looked through it that much, but when you need it, I'm sure you're grateful for it. So. Moving on, I just mentioned that the HR team is hiring. They put out a little advertising of that on the forums. So if you are interested in that sort of thing, do let them know if you'd be willing to help out. It's an important job.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Bringing people in to support the project is probably one of the most mission-critical things that the Ninth Age has.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's, I don't want to use the word a revolving door, because that connotates that we don't do a good job of it. But it's a revolving door because people have time in the hobby, and then people don't have time for the hobby.
Yeah.
So they're not leaving because they're not capable of doing their job. It's just like everything else. We know this is a hobby, and times other things in the real world take away from our hobby time, so it's tough. So I know they do a really good job with continuing to bring new people into the various project teams, because project teams need people to do stuff.
Indeed. Yeah, it's the Ninth Age is moving through a lot of people, but it's only natural given the nature of the project. Some people stay a long time, some are just not able to, and some can come back after a while, after a break. I've been a member of the team pretty much continuously, but there have been parts where I'm not very active. I'm not very active now in some of my roles, but I'm still around, and so it all depends on your own situation, and it's good that they can accommodate that.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. I have one last piece of news, a miniature release by Avatars of War. So they put out this Goblin Berserker, or Hobgoblin Berserker, just a little while ago.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I like it. I think it would make an awesome Madgit for the Oaks and Goblins, but it could fit into just a unit filler or something like that, possibly for the Infernal Dwarves as a vassal or something. So yeah, quite excited to see that. His little mohawk and everything. I think you can even have some options for him. He looks cool.
Oh, that is neat.
So I think that will wrap up our news section, unless you have anything you want to add.
No, you made an interesting comment about unit fillers. I've always sort of gone back and forth on, do I like unit fillers, or do I like just having models there? One of the big things that I think as a hobbyist we've always found is unit fillers allow us to be very creative in our overall scheme of painting. And so as I said, 10 years ago, if you would have asked me, did I like unit fillers, the answer would have been no. But as I sort of developed much more into the painting aspect of the game, and that, I really found myself drawn now towards, I like making fun, unique unit fillers, because they thematically help units out, give them sort of this grand design. And number two, then you don't have to paint as many models per se, because you can fill it in with one thing. So I'll just say I've changed my mind on it.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. There are some examples of unit fillers that feel a bit cheap. You do see that every now and then. but overall it's a cool thing to be able to bring more variety into a unit and things like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll move on to the grand companies then. Starting with some background in the setting, what do these guys represent? So do you want to? Yep.
Sure. So first off, this is the Homebrewed Army book, Grand Companies of the Mercenary States. What it really is it's the concept of a mercenary-themed army featuring the ability to bring in troop selections from outside of the human race. So you could have some human characters with a dwarf character and a dwarf unit, as well as, the sort of unique things that the range of models that the Dogs of War gave us to have as troop choices. One of the things that the Ninth Age has done really well with the original 16 Army book releases is they provided very well thought out rules to cover basically the entire range from the original 16 armies. So when you go and you look at Saurian Ancients, you basically have all of the troop choices that line of models had available to it. So this is a similar concept of providing rules to cover that entire range. Some of the background on this is it's primarily designed in the Ninth Age realms as small, independent sort of city-state areas that the Ninth Age has not fully fluffed out. In the grandiose scheme of where they're at in the Ninth Age realms, they're not really sort of nailed down yet, because again, the Ninth Age staff, while they have officially released the title of Iron Crowns, they haven't really taken the next real step of further developing that line. So what this is primarily a placeholder to when we finally get to a true Iron Crowns release with what will then be the official Ninth Age canon and fluff.
Okay, yeah, I was curious about that, because the Iron Crowns is the mercenary faction in the Ninth Age, although, as you say, it's not really developed yet. But I think it makes sense then to place your project on a bit higher scale, to not limit the Ninth Age when they do get around to this.
Absolutely.
Because they can do it the way they want them.
Right. And there's been a lot of, I want to use the word, guidance that has been given back and forth on how to develop this. And one of the things that was given was, cover all of the potential rules for the model range that exists. So as we look further into this, basically every contingent from the Dogs of War faction has been covered in this rule set. Now, it's fully understood that as we develop this into the real bread and butter product of the Iron Crowns, that, yeah, things are going to change. But like I said, this is just a well-designed placeholder until we get to that next step.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to mention a little bit more about the background of the actual Iron Crowns, because they will tie into this a little bit. So the Iron Crowns is a collective name for a few cities between Arcalia and Destria, as I understand it. So it's Italy and Spain in real-world equivalents. And they have independent city-states and companies of mercenaries that they hire for different campaigns. And some of these companies are known to recruit different species into their ranks, ogres, among other things. So that's a bit where it comes from. So I don't think there's much more to say about the background and fluff so far. I'm sure this will be something that's developed more in the future for the Ninth Age. But do you think we should dive into the rules then?
Well, I think that'd be the best way, and I think I'll just be happy if you just want to move through the pages. I'll just sort of talk about them as we go.
All right then. We'll do that. So do you want to share the screen, or do you want me to scroll?
Whatever's going to be easier for you with your editing. If you want, I'll be happy to let you just scroll through it, and I'll just sort of work my way through what we're talking about.
I think it will be easier if you take the wheel and scroll
right.
through it.
Then we'll try that. Share screen.
We're gonna have a.
Okay,
switch
so
this back to the.
there we go.
I'm gonna enlarge this a little bit. I think. Give me a second. Okay, something like that.
All right, you should see Army-specific rules up if you got my shared screen correctly.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, then I'll just start right here. First off, one of the big things when developing this was to provide realistic limitations and caps within the rules set. So this army has a series of specific army rules that apply to all the models in the army. The first thing is characters can be affiliated with a city-state, and you can't have characters from a different city-state in the unit, very much like Cult Rivalry works with the Dread Elves faction. However, you get to ignore this rule if your general is a merchant prince. He's a unique character within the army because he's surmised to be this uber guy with lots of money, so you know you're going to do what he wants. The next thing was, while in the Ninth Age lore there's not really this amnesty between the various races, it was one of the things that we wanted to carry over. So if you have hobgoblins or orcs, you can't have dwarves in your army. Relatively simple. And speaking further, some of the entries in the book have city-state allegiances, which are special upgrades to them if you've met certain criteria of, I took a character with a certain option. Hard to hire. Well, because we're going to have these characters from other races, we didn't want it to become a hodgepodge of all of these random race characters. So the answer is you can never have more characters with distrust than there are characters without. This was one of our first caps that was designed, again, to limit this sort of hodgepodgeness of choices. One of the unique things, since we're talking about mercenaries here, we know in the game that there's always been a discipline penalty for units that are 25% or less of its starting wounds. Well, here the idea is, well, wouldn't that just mean there's more money for the survivors? So in this case, we have more money for us, which says, hey, as long as your keeper of coin is alive, you can ignore the penalty of 25% or less. So again, there's more money for us.
Yeah, I really like that rule when I read through this book. It's very... It really captures the feel of a mercenary army, I think. So kudos on that.
Exactly. Now we move into our army rules. We had to talk about how distrust works. So again, it basically has a unique play. So if a character with distrust is in a unit other than his own race, and he might have the highest leadership available, because he is not in a unit of his own race, you have to go down to the next leadership available for that unit. This is really because it's sort of like if he's not in his own unit of soldiers, are a bunch of humans really going to trust this guy? So he unfortunately becomes bound to whatever the leadership is of the unit he's with if he's not with his own race. Now, there is a couple notable exceptions when you get into the elf character, because elves and halflings like each other. So, again, unless specifically stated otherwise. The next is...
I'd like to comment on that. I think it's a good design not to just forbid it, because that could be one way to do it. Just say, no, you can't have mixed species units. But here you make it a penalty instead. So you can still do it, but it's a little... You have to pay a cost for it.
Exactly.
So that's good design.
And the cost might be My leadership 9 dwarf with a bunch of humans is only leadership 7. You're running, you broke. Sorry, have a good day.
Yeah.
So it allowed to, as you said, to include non-human characters in other units. Independent. Several of the units have very unique upgrades, and we didn't want characters being able to sort of jump into them and pick up some of the benefits that these special units have. So we created independent. Characters may never join models with this rule unless stated otherwise. There's a notable exception when we get into the orc character.
Yep.
Irregulars, it's just a play that came right out of the Empire of Stonstal, because we have several units that become light troops in this case, and I just wanted to include it.
Yeah, it's a simple way to do it as a general rule.
Exactly. The next one is sort of the one-of-a-kind, and this is the linchpin of the entire Grand Company's army. It's the Keeper of Coin. He's the army paymaster, the battle standard bearer. You must have this model in your army. Again, he counts as your battle standard bearer. However, the difference is, at the end of any phase, if you remove the Keeper of Coin as a casualty, or if he breaks from combat, all units within the range of his rally around the flags take an immediate special panic test. This is different than the regular friend broke from combat. This is a -1 penalty. You can't use commanding presence. And what's going to happen is, if you fail this test, you become disorganized because the guy who pays you is missing from the battlefield, or he's running. What do we do? So this was, again, to put a known weakness into the army of, hey, this paymaster is really important. Uh-oh, he's gone. So what's going to happen is, if you failed this action, you're going to become disorganized, which is going to be, you can't perform any voluntary actions. If someone charges you, you're going to flee. And you must take a discipline test at the start of every of your turn until either you pass it. If you roll double sixes, you flee towards the board edge. So again, this was really to provide sort of that, ooh, this guy's special, we need to protect him. Or, in the case of your opponent, hey, I really need to go pound on this guy, because if I kill him, I can run half the army off. Again, very similar to how several players approach our undead compatriots, General or Hero Phantom. I eliminate this guy, he's into a world hurt because all these other things are potentially happening.
Yeah, and this has a bit more interplay because it's only those units inside of the bubble. So
correct.
If you notice that your paymaster is about to go down, then you can run away and leave him to his fate, basically.
Get it? Yeah, leave him to his fate. The next one is veteran units. Veteran units appear throughout this army book as upgrades to existing units, or some of the special units are already at a veteran level. This was done, again, to sort of provide the idea of, if you have the points and you want to make a bunch of uber tough guys, here's the method to do it. But we put some hard limitations in right away and said, it's a 0-3. So if you use them all up, you've used them all up. Additionally, one of the nice things that we learned after the Warriors of the Dark Gods was, they came up with a really neat way to deal with their champion. And I took that and said, you know what? Why couldn't we do the same thing with a veteran champion in this unit? So, in this case, spend some more points on your champion, get a health point, get some agility, get some offense. So, again, all building on those blocks that we took from other army books and the tools that they developed. So that allows you to, again, bulk up your unit's champion. In our armory, we have a brace of pistols, which is basically the same one you have from the Empire of Sonstal. The 4 unique items, javelins, basically it's the same javelin you're going to see from Saurian Ancients. Light crossbow. In the Dogs of War motif, the crossbow was the king. None of the armies in that range had black powder long rifle weapons. So here we've developed a light crossbow. Range 18, single shot, strength 4, AP1, quick to fire. you'll find light crossbows appear on a myriad of both the core units as well as some of the special choices. Pavice we've seen from our Vermin Swarm army. Again, it appears on several of the entries because in that model range, a model group had a Pavice.
Yeah, and it's really good to reuse these concepts, even if they are unique in the army book in a way that they are not in the common list, but actually reusing things from other army books makes this simpler.
That really was one of the keys, was when we took rules from other army books to keep them in line with what they were, because the idea is, why would it be different just because it's in your book? No, we're taking what they have and using it exactly as they intended in our design. Now, one of the unique weapons that the Dogs of War have always had was the pike. And one of the things that I spent a lot of time developing was, how do I make a pike effective in the 9th Age? And in this case, we started off, it's always going to be a two-handed weapon. That goes without saying. So what we did was, we said, attacks made with a pike gain fighting rank ×2. So that means you're going to get 2 additional entries of fighting extra ranks when you're fighting, plus 1 army penetration. Very similar to how a spear is. However, we also needed to take into account the fact is, when you make a charge with a pike, you're not going to be as effective. So if you charge an enemy unit with a pike, you only get fight an extra rank, not fight an extra rank 2. And that sort of was the bulk of a pike in its combat. However, we also needed to take into account, pikes are great to receive enemy charges when you're set. So what we did for pikes is, we wanted to say, in the first round, when charged to the front, we want the wielder, since he has this big long stick, we need him to go before even impact hits occur. Why? Because how can you get hit with an impact hit when the guy who's going to impact you still has to go through about 15, 20 feet of wood? So in this case, when someone charges you from the front, you're going to go before his impact hits. We needed to be cognizant of, well, you can't stick the guy twice with a pike because he's just running into it. So even if you have a champion that has 2 attacks, he only gets to make 1 in that first round of combat. The nice part is, you get an additional +2 armor penetration, again, provided you're not being attacked from the side or the rear. And lastly, only
same as spears, so no
correct
difference there.
So again, taking pieces from other weapons, integrating them into, again, using the same logic steps, because that's really what's important when you're developing this, is to use the same fundamental logic that the creators have already taken, so you're not doing something out of the ordinary.
Yeah, and it doesn't add as much to the cognitive strain of using this armor book, so that's excellent.
Weapon enchantments. Probably very basic weapon enchantments. The 3 unique ones that I'd like to talk about are Domingo's Albarest. It's a crossbow enchantment. So the nice part is, you're going to get a range 36, strength 5, AP 2, accurate multiple wound crossbow shot. While just sort of around at 45 points, it's a good weapon. If you look, when we talk about city-states, there's some unique ways to sort of tweak this where it really becomes a neat tool. In the armor enchantments, I always like to think of Jovan's Golden Protection as like a big iron kettle. So this is a heavy armor plate enchantment. You're going to basically say, we're not going to take lethal strike hits against us because we're going to ignore that. We're going to only suffer half of the multiple wounds, rounding up, very similar to how it happens in the Ogre Kingdoms with their I'm trying to get the name of the bony toughness.
The mammoth hide?
Yeah, the mammoth hide. So again,
Oroc's charm, I think.
Yes, you're right. And lastly, because I also wanted to convey the fact is, the guy's basically wearing an iron kettle, we wanted his attacks to be slowed down, because it's sort of hard to fight when you're wearing a big iron kettle. So in this case, the wearer's melee attacks occur at a -2 agility. Yeah. Again, you have to balance things out, otherwise they become too good.
Yeah, and that I know some people really hate it when you design it in weaknesses and downsides of things, but that is really what makes them so evocative sometimes. So as you said, this is intended as a really cumbersome armor, and then it makes sense that it affects your agility in a bad way. So I like that.
Exactly. Else on a shield. That's basically it's a repeat of another similarly designed item. In our banner enchantments, the real special one here is one of our characters has a unique ability called the pay chest. The pay chest increases the model's rally around the flag. So in this case, if he's taken the pay chest upgrade, now he has the ability to provide break tests at a minimized roll. So a neat upgrade just for one particular thing, but it was important to put that in there when we talk about that upgrade and how it affects the bigger picture of that rally around the flag for the Paymaster.
Okay.
Now, one of the items that I really love is Guido's Lucky Coin. And what I like about Guido's Lucky Coin is it's exactly what it is. It's this one-use only item that says, hey, before you use this item, you can say, here's something that's going to affect me. A hit, a wound, a save, a discipline check. Take one die off and roll something. On a 1 through 3, the dice is a 1. 4, 5, or 6, it's a 6. But, so, again, did I need a 1 for my discipline? Did I need a 6 for a save? Hey, you got a 50-50 chance of getting the number you need. Yeah. But what I thought was really neat is, the fact is, if this results in the die roll being successful, then this item can be used again.
Yeah, I saw that item, and I think it's really great. Really neat.
It's a lucky coin. Until you lose your lucky coin, why can't we use it again?
Yeah. I think it's this type of mechanic I sort of used a little bit in skirmish campaigns. So my own homebrew passion, which is another topic completely. But it's I think it's a bit tricky to use this kind of wording where it directly affects the bearer. So I'm not sure about that, but I love the effect. I just think it's maybe a bit unclear when you can use it in these fringe cases and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But those kind of things are no issue for a book like this, I think.
Okay. This is the meat and potatoes of the army. It's our city-states. And while I'm not going to go into them all in a row, in our city-states, these are where the general buys the name of the city he's from. And what it does is it gives different types of upgrades to your characters that have the ability to take a city-state. And in the two brief ones I'm going to cover, the city-state of Regulium...
Before we get into that, I want to clarify some things here. So the general can take a city-state and other characters, is that right?
The answer is a commander can take a city-state and a captain can take a city-state. And a magic user, or in this case the wizard, only if he's the general can take a city-state.
Okay, so you can have, but you couldn't mix different city-states in a single unit, but you can mix in a single army. Okay.
Correct.
Yes.
They just can't be in the same unit.
Yes.
So, in this case here, we talk about this is how we open up or unlock various special upgrades for our units. So, in our city-state of Regulium, the model gains accurate, ignores penalties for shooting, for cover of any type. This is the guy, if you're going to give the Alvarez to, he's the guy because now he's not going to take any penalty for cover. If he's your general, any model is joined by the unit, ignore soft cover, treat hard as soft when using crossbows. So you can sort of see where various benefit or boon other units in a positive way. Yeah. One of the things that we talked about, we wanted to at least provide the opportunity for a non-human character to be your paymaster. So if you take our city-state of Versili, you have to take a non-human character in your army. It's a requirement. You can take one of the non-human character of the same race as your choice, have him get counted as core, except for veteran ogres, obviously. And lastly, you can choose to upgrade that non-human character to be your consigliere. I thought it was just the perfect name because now you have the ability to make your non-human character your keeper of coin. And we obviously had to provide a mechanism to gain a bodyguard, so non-human characters of the same race gain a bodyguard for him. We wanted the ability in one of our city-states to have the model become an engineer, because there are some exceptions to, the fact is that there are some war machines in this army, so we have the opportunity to make a model an engineer, and we wanted to give them those unique engineering weapons that we see from the Empire,
Yeah.
from the Sandstorm group. So here you've got your long rifle, your repeater gun, your repeater pistol. Again, these are verbatim takeaways directly from those books.
Yes.
We're into our army organization. Very simple. We have 2 unique groups: characters at 35, min core 25, special no limit. Now we have our 2 unique categories: the best money can buy, and legendary curiosities and the armory. So again, it's 25 of those other 2 categories, and you're going to see as you take upgrades are going to count against those other categories again, so you can't just build all of these uber tough units. It really is going to be a significant limitation as we go. Number 1 characters or commander. He is your top of the line human fighter, well equipped to handle most battlefield conditions with a good offensive skill, moderate defensive skill, comparable to what you would find from a strong human commander from the other human realms. He has a unique special rule that says, hey, if he's your general, let's up that cap of your veteran units by 1, because it's assumed this guy's been around the world. So he has a better chance of recruiting these veteran units into your army. Again, a very common theme throughout is things unlock other things.
Yeah.
Common alignment of equipment. As you can see, he has the ability to take a city-state allegiance. He has special weapons, or he has obviously special items and his equipment. He has some common mount choices, horse, Pegasus, and then some of the uniques, and we'll talk about those under the mounts. This is a captain. He's sort of our low-level human fighter. Nothing unique about him. He, again, can take a city-state as needed. He's not as good as the commander. He's just your low-level human fighter. Now we're going to talk about our merchant prince. He's a unique guy because he can really do a lot of things for your army. First off is he's a one-of-a-kind model, so there can only always be one of him. If he's your general, we're going to go buff the category best money can buy by 15%, because it's assumed he has money, he can bring more stuff to the army. Additionally, if you remember, if he's your general, you can ignore that rule on city-state people joining each of his units, because again, it's assumed he's paid everybody to play nice. He has a higher than normal special items allotment. He can become the army's keeper of coin if he chooses to be. And again, his equipment and his mount choices. Quartermaster is basically going to be your army's keeper of coin 90% of the time. So
he's a cheap option for keeper of coin, isn't he?
Correct. He only has 2 hit points, so he's relatively weak.
He's a goblin, basically.
He is a goblin, but he has the ability to take the pay chest and bodyguard, which is going to get him that 3rd hit point. Yeah. So again, built into his design choice. Again, the army has a weakness. It is the quartermaster / keeper of coins, so gotta protect him. We wanted a guild assassin, so we have the professional courtesy that we see in both our dread elves as well as our vermin swarm. He can get himself some poison attacks. He has Aegeus against melee attacks. So again, really just sort of designed if you really wanted to take a tooled up close combat specialist that you know you're going to go first. This is going to be the guy to go for. And again, he has a decent range of thrown weapons as well as some paired weapon choices. Our guild wizard is a large entry because it can do so much. First off, because there's such a wide range of models, and what was developed was you had these unique wizard units from the Dogs of War range. I wanted to include them. So what we've done is in your magic choice, that's where we've dropped those 3 special wizards in, as well as your common upgrades to Adept and Master. So the Oracle of Light, the Emissary of Shadow, and the Priestess of the Old World. What they do is, if you purchase them, they're also going to buy you their wizard level in there. So, for example, if you became an Emissary of Shadow, your model's attack value is going to go up because you're a combat-based wizard. However, your choice of spells are going to change. You're going to get occultism or witchcraft. Additionally, because we wanted to say you're intrinsically a special caster, you have the ability to choose any spell between 1 and 6 versus normally your 1 and 4 as an adept. However, you don't get to be a leader, and you can't take a mount. But we did give you a nice close combat weapon of a beast axe. Similarly with the Emissary of Shadow, Cosmetology and Deviation, Mastery, no mount. The last one was the Priestess of the Old World. Sort of a unique design because this one has the ability to take a special mount choice in the Horned Raptor, as well as when we talk about our freelancers or what is our heavy cavalry, you can go put 1 unit of them on the Horned Raptors as well. So again, just a unique choice with your wizards. Stats relatively are directly in line with what you see out of the Empire of Sonstal. So again, straight in line with that. Unique model, and one of the ones that I have a wonderful example, which I'll show you in a little while, the Disgraced Highborn Dragon Lord. He is exactly what he says he is. He is a Highborn Dragon Lord that has broken ties with the Highborn Elves and taken off with his dragon. He's a pretty big character choice chunk at 800 points. Plus, he's going to chew up 620 points of both the best money can make and legendary curiosities and armies. So if you choose to invest in him, you've eaten up a big portion of your army's other 2 components.
This is one of the entries that I really noticed when I flicked through the book. And it's obviously this, I can't really remember the name of the Dogs of War character, but that rode a dragon. And
you mean Arnsel, the Dragon Lord?
Yeah, that's the guy. And I think it's natural that he should be included in the book in some way. But I feel that this entry is so very specific about it. I think it could have been made nicer with a more general approach. Maybe include a dragon mount as a character mount somewhere like that. But it's a detail really. It's good to see me in here at least. So
one of the things was in development was it was discussed that dragons are these very expensive things, and it was felt in our group discussion as we were building this, and it was a good question. Was the fact is, how can a mercenary state support the, I want to say, keeping of a dragon? Because you'd have to think of the expense to the country, or in this case the faction, to keep a dragon around and alive. That was one of the reasons why a dragon was not included as a common choice, because the idea of the support and maintenance of that animal, in this case that mount, would be beyond the exorbitant cost that you might see. Something that probably an excellent discussion point, but that's one of the reasons why a dragon was not included as a mount choice. That would be too expensive.
I think this is one of the things that maybe the Ninth Age would do differently when they do the book, the Iron Crowns.
Yeah,
to make it a much more general mount. Maybe even not a dragon. Just say it's a big, scary monster like the Wasteland Behemoth is. So you can interpret it as you want to, but still use a dragon model if you like that.
Completely good comment. We now get to our non-human characters. Dwarf Goldseeker, he's in line with a dwarf hero. He has a higher than average special items, again, not the ability to take runic upgrades. He's forced, since he's not in the dwarven holds, he has to take regular, or in this case, only special items. So no abilities for runic upgrades on this model or anything like that.
I think the name of this character is a bit unfortunate, because when I first read it, I assumed it was a seeker model, so a naked dwarf running around wielding axes. But this guy has armor, so maybe a bit unfortunate name.
Yeah.
But I don't. Gold Digger wouldn't be so good either, so I don't know what.
Right. good. Is it things to think about?
Yeah.
Elf Ranger. The Elf Ranger is sort of a wherewithal. One of his special abilities is he can't buy armor enchantments, even though he can take light armor. He's prohibited from armor enchantments. Has some unique things, such as his woodland cloak. If he's alone by himself running around in the woods, he's hard target too. He can join halflings and Stradats, which are going to be the scouting units of the army, and they can use his leadership. If he goes with them, they can gain ambush, and he either has to join them or ambush with them, depending on their choices. He can take a horse, but he loses his scout if he takes his horse. So, again, sort of just a unique character that does some things within the army. Also, he can unlock some other upgrades when we get into the elven units. Orc Marauder, he is basically a orc chief of just a faction. We're not going to say he's an iron orc or anything. He's just going to call him an Orc Marauder. Yeah. He can join his Orc Crossbowmen, again, really just designed to be a hero choice for the orcs. You know, one of the areas where we've taken a lot of, I won't say criticism, is there's too many choices. So a lot of choices may be very brief in their entry, and they're really just there to provide that character for what we have when we get to their unit choices. Ogre Wanderer, he's an ogre hero. We did give him the ability to take a hand cannon as a choice. However, if you take his hand cannon, he's going to chew up part of your armory category, because again, we're just trying to limit what you do based on points. So again, you can't build tough as nails things. He has his crossbow, brace of ogre pistols. Again, all these rules are directly from the Ogre Kingdoms book. Outlander Chieftain, this is not a Warriors of the Dark God Marauder at all. This is to characterize the product line of Norse Marauders from the Dogs of War faction. Reason one, they were mounted on 20s, not 25s back in the day. So we didn't want a single human entry to be on 25s, just because it would have been difficult for that character to be elsewhere in the army if he was mounted on a 25. So this is just a character that's here as a roundup, very well designed in his offensive ability. He's much more of an offensive character than a defensive character. He can buff a unit of his berserkers when he joins them by gaining battle focus and hatred to them. So again, sort of really just designed to be a character enhancement to a unit choice.
Yeah.
Our mounts, Elven Horse, Raptor.
I noticed that there was a lot of different mounts, but a lot of them are just copies of other mounts from other books.
The unique ones are going to be the Horned Raptor, and all it really is it's a Raptor mount, and now it's very similar to what the system already has that we just saw with the Infernal Dwarves. So its name may change in the near future. Horse is a horse, of course. Mountain Rock is sort of our big monster choice. Towering Presence, Fear, the ability to upgrade it with a choice of Gaining Frenzy, Devastating Charge, and Terror. But if you take that upgrade, and the fact to note here is the upgrade of 50 points only counts towards legendary curiosities and not the other two categories. So again, a small bite out of that third tier, chewing up points off of that composition faction.
Yep.
The pay chest being that third hit point, or in this case, the fourth hit point for that paymaster, giving him some defense. He gets some extra attacks with his bodyguard that he rallies around. However, the disadvantage of here is, while his rally around the flag is going to increase by 6 inches, so now he's 18. He dies. Models within 18 inches are going to potentially run away.
Yeah.
So, again, there's a plus, but there's a minus. And if this model is removed as a casualty, all enemy units gain hatred, because now they're really mad, because not only is their paymaster dead, but they've also lost the pay chest. So they're going to hate whoever caused the casualty. Pegasus, he just has the ability to add some armor to him, so he can go to armor 2 versus armor 1. And our War Elephant. The War Elephant is our big ground pounder. He's going to get the character who's on him stubborn, which is nice, so now you can potentially have a stubborn 9 character. It's a gigantic beast, so he's not going to be in a unit, but you could get a character that's stubborn independently. It's an elephant. Has a couple choices. You can put a Hoda on it to get him some extra attacks, or you can get a better armor and go to armor 3. And again, if you go for the armor choice, we're going to go chew up some more of your legendary curiosity as an armory. Again, just trying to make it so everything you do in this army costs you something on the end. I'll go relatively quickly through core. Crossbowmen have the ability to get that Pavice. This unit here, if you have the right city state, you can get our Dreadnoughts. They're going to be Aegis 6, veteran crossbows, plate armor, basically tanks and armor that can sit around and shoot all day at you, and be relatively safe against range attacks, again, because they're going to be save 1 Aegis 6 against ranged attacks. Sort of nice. Duelists being nothing more than Empire of Sonstal skirmishers, or they aren't skirmishers to begin with, they can become skirmishers with the irregular choice. They can take a buckler, which gives them +1 armor against close combat attacks only, so not ranged attacks or special attacks, just close combat attacks. So doesn't do much for them, but it's a point here and there. And you can use that buckler with your paired weapons, because it doesn't count as anything. It's just something you wear on your arm to not shield it to his side.
Still fight with 2 weapons. Okay, that's a neat design.
Freelancers, that's our heavy cavalry choice. The unit has the ability to upgrade to a veteran unit, which gets them an extra point of defensive, offensive, strength, and armor piercing. A little bit pricey at 12 points a model. Excellent selection of weapons, from great weapons, a light lance if you're on the cheap. Because this again is an army all about how much money do you want to pay for what. So a lot of things, you can spend a lot of money, you can spend no money. We gave the champion the ability, if he was a veteran, to take a pistol. Again, you'll see some synonymous upgrades where certain champions still have the ability to take something unique to them. Pikeman, this is our stalwart unit throughout the system. His veteran upgrade takes him to leadership 8, defensive 4, offensive 3, gets him some heavy armor. If he's a veteran, he can buy plate armor. And this one has a unique option called the mixed formation. If you've taken a character from Falil, you can replace 1 pike model with 1 crossbow model, light crossbow. So now you can have, and again, this is because there's a unique Dogs of War model range that had a mixed unit available to it. So this is paying homage to that unit in its design of. Now you can have some pikes that automatically gain front rank. So let's say I buy 9 pikes and my unit's 5 wide. Well, I have my champion with his pistol, because again, we don't want to give up that extra attack. So now we have a pistol. We're going to make 2 hand attacks. Now we've got 9 crossbow shots. And I still have 5 ranks behind, 3 ranks behind me, because I'm using my pikes that are going to fight in combat. So again, to develop out the design of it's what you have. So again, unlock it, take the city state. Now you can swap out one model for 3 points. So you buy yourself 9 crossbows, 27 points. Cell swords are our cannon fodder choice for the army. This is basically, if you're on the cheap and you didn't want to buy pikes, you can build yourself some cell swords, and they have a wide range of choices available to them, from armor to weapons to some ranged weapon choices. You can even turn a small detachment of them into skirmishers, the whole 9 yards. Our specials. Paymaster's Bodyguard. This is designed to provide the Keeper of Coin a bunker unit. Again, some choices here. Halberd free, heavy armor free. So included in the cost, you can buy the plate, the halberd and shield. Champion can take a weapon enchantment of up to 50 points. Again, something that the 9th Age did away with. I left in place again because the thought was, if you want to spend the money, spend the money. Here's our halfling entries. Unfortunately, they're sort of squishy at only being resistance 2, but they're pretty good shooters at either having a sling or a bow. They'll get you some hits. You can choose them to make them some combat specialist with an armor, shield, spear, and give them some scoring. Again, providing rules for a model range that exists.
Yeah, for sure.
Mercenary Ogres. Again, this entry is the exact entry from the Ogre Kingdoms, with the exception of these are regular ogres. If you choose to take them as regular ogres, you can give them great weapon and heavy armor, but they're not going to get the better leadership. However, these are the ogres that can become your veteran ogres, which then basically become the mercenary veterans directly from Ogre Kingdoms, except they cost a little more because the assumption would be they're a little more pricey outside of their own turf.
Yeah.
But all of their rules directly in line with Ogre Kingdoms ogres, as well as their upgrade choices, their costs. The only real difference is their initial buy-in at veteran ogres is about 28 points higher for the same group of 3 veteran ogres out of the Ogre Kingdoms. But what else can you expect? They had to travel a long way, so they're going to want more money.
Yeah. I think this is a good example of a unit that looks really complex when you scroll to the page. It's a page of rules, but most of it is just copied from another
Exactly.
armor book, so it's not that large a cognitive load.
Exactly. Outlander Berserkers. This is again providing what is rules for a range of models, as well as a unit for that character we had. The Pit Fighters. These are some unique specialist units. They are veteran out the door. They get 2 attacks, but beyond that, they have some nets and some spears. All, again, choices. How do you want to equip them? How do you want to spend on them? So just a small sort of hedgehoggy type of unit that if you really want to spend 100 points for 5 guys, be my guest. They're going to get hurt pretty quickly because, unfortunately, they're only res 3 and only have light armor for the most part.
Yeah.
This is one of our first combination unit choices. These are our scouts, and our scouts are going to come in 3 choices. Scouts on foot, and here they can have a bow or a light crossbow. If you've taken the right city state, you can turn them into marksmen, which gives them accurate, quick-to-fire, vanguard, veteran, crossbow. They're going to lose some things, and they're going to gain some things, like the ability to take a musician, again, to provide rules for that range of models. A very unique set of models is our Flying Stradats. These are to give a special set of rules for what would have been Dandadello's Winged Marksman from the Dogs of War line. And again, rules to play by, trying to value them correctly, as well as they're going to cost both towards your special and your legendary curiosities, because they're going to be very unique thing, one of a kind, 40 by 40 cavalry with 2 hit points each, but they are a veteran unit. You can put a champion with them. And lastly, our mounted Stradats, again, light cavalry, light troops. Special about them is you can get rid of their light troops, give them armor too, if you sort of want to go with a medium cavalry mentality. They are limited in both the amount of units in the Army as well as total models in the Army, because you didn't want somebody to be able to just build a whole bunch of these. Can be relatively tough. If you have 10 light cavalry models, with what comes out to be armor 3, those are some tough models sometimes to get rid of because they've got a decent save and they're going to move 16. So, again, some limitations to offset not being able to take as many of them.
Yeah, and that aligns perfectly with the Night Age design in general, limiting those avoidance types unit.
Yep,
So
exactly.
Makes sense.
All right, now we're going to move into our best money can buy category. This is basically where all of the super special units in this force org exist. And the first section is our unique mercenary units, and these are literally designed specifically for providing rules for those models. So we're going to have a set of Dread Elf Exiles, which is for for a range of models from the Dogs of War product line, and they carry all of the rules that you would find in that model from either their force org, being the Dread Elves, as well as what that unit was supposed to do with their repeater crossbows and their great weapons and poison and the whole 9 yards. Hobgoblin Wolf Riders.
I want to comment on this.
Sure.
This is not the first time you will see it in the book, but this multi-entry units, and I guess it's a way to further limit these kinds of things. So you can only have, what is it, 2 total of these 4 different unit choices.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. There's restrictions built in specifically, like I said, because we didn't want the ability just to cherry pick all of these special units and just say, I've got all these special units here. That's not how anybody builds an army. You've got to have regular Joes as well as the unique Joes, and that's really what we've done here. Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, with the release of the new Infernal Dwarves unit, this is a unit that may have to be reevaluated, because are they still going to be hobgoblins, or are these going to become vassals, and we're going to have to utilize the new stats? It's in the discussion, but we haven't made any choice, because again, we were trying to provide rules for models that existed prior to the release of the new Infernal Dwarves. Mercenary Orc Crossbowmen, just again, they're Orc Crossbowmen. In this case, they're going to be the upgraded Orc Crossbowmen, so they're going to be your sort of hard as nails.
These are like Ed Bashers.
These are Head Basher Orc Crossbowmen with their line stat, and they're costed appropriately for that.
Yeah.
So across the board, that's really what they are. Is they're Head Basher Orc Crossbowmen, and again, you can see what you're getting is what you're paying for. We did give their champion the ability to buy a great weapon, because you're figuring he's an orc, he's going to have a great weapon, and he's going to go smash somebody. Skink Raptor Raiders, again, just a round-out unit to provide the rules for that model's range. We did give them cold-blooded, like any other skink does, the ability to buy the poison javelins that skinks have, as well as the regular javelins. Mercenary Dwarves. Your comment of it's a page of rules, absolutely right, but they're all repeats of rules from those other books, because the idea was we wanted this thing to be where you don't have to go look in this book for this rule or this book for that rule. Again, these are regular dwarves on the upgrade. If you upgrade them to veterans, then they become graybeards. So you've got choices, upgrade routes, and
I think really this is just a highlight of the complexity of the dwarf book that everybody hates. Mm-hmm. Because there are so many rules. But it makes sense. You have
it does.
You have 2 or 3 main classes of dwarves here, I guess, with the rangers and the pirates and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we can
and again, pirates being the fact is they are seeker pirates. When you get into it, they are seeker pirates, except they have a brace of pistols instead of paired weapons. They lose their heavy armor, their scoring. They can't take any of the other upgrades. But again, directly in line with what you would have with seekers. Rangers are basically your dwarf rangers, except they're crossbow 3. Reason is, in the old Homage, this is where Bugman originally began back in the day. He didn't begin over in the Dwarves. He really began over in the Dogs of War. Bigger they are. You're all coming with me. These are just the core rules right out of the Dwarven Holds book.
Yeah.
So, just what you'd expect. The unit automatically is a bodyguard for the Gold Seeker, just because we figured dwarves being a little more protective of their own, so you don't even have to be the keeper of coin to get a bodyguard unit out of dwarves. We just figured dwarves would be much more apt to protect their own.
Yeah.
Personal fun note about this unit, it's one of my most favorite things is to put my human spellcaster in with the dwarves, and then when he miscasted, have all the dwarves be like, "Hey man, why are you bringing all this fire down on us with this darn miscast?" So it is one of my
why are you here?
Exactly. Why are you doing? It is one of my personal favorites to bunker my mage with the dwarves, just because of the fun irony of it when you miscast on him. It's like, why did you do this, guys? Come on. Mercenary Elves. This is a myriad of rules for the Elven choice. Spear, spear and shield, light lance, if you're on the mount, a bow. These are not your elves that you would be like, okay, these are, these are going to be elves. If you want to go buy a spear and gain fighting arc strength, take it. You want a shield, take it. But the idea was, these are just regular elves that you can do stuff with. So if you have a full command unit, we're going to let you turn them into a special group of elves and call them Sylvan Woodsmen. And the Sylvan Woodsman is, again, to cover a range of a special elven troop that existed in the Dogs of War line, along with the fact is that they had a blade dancer in the unit. They had a character in the unit that gave them magic resistance. So, again, special, unique option route to go with them. If you took the Elf Ranger on a horse, well, now you can get some Elven Outriders. So, an Elven Cavalry unit, which, if joined by that Ranger, how about a skirmished cavalry unit? So, again, all using the various upgrade mechanics to unlock things and go from there. Common Elven rules, their champion has the ability to take a weapon upgrade. And again, if you take the special options as with the dwarves, you're going to jump the unit into a multiple category of counting towards legendary curiosities and armor. Again, to limit you, as you start spending those points, it's hard to make it work. And again, in playing with the army builder tool, I've spent hours just trying to build broken lists, and it's tough to do because you run out of points.
Yeah.
And lastly, this is a special entry called the pay card. You can't have a pay card unless you have taken the Merchant Prince, who is the keeper of coin. This is a special unit that rolls around on the battlefield all by itself. It's a standard bearer. It has rally around the flag, except only units that don't include characters can benefit from it. If it's destroyed, you're going to have to deal with the same issue of potentially being disorganized. But it has 4 guys with blunderbusses. They're champions in their own right from the bodyguard unit with 2 strikes each. So you can sort of just see where they sort of roll around the battlefield on their own, helping out, in theory, friendly units in combat, because they can boon combat by being in the combat, subjugated to the minimized roll, so on and so forth.
Yep.
Last section of the army is going to be our legendary curiosities. This is where you're going to find our mercenary giant, who can also be upgraded to a veteran, gets a better point of leadership, better defensive skill, better attack. He can still become a big brother. He has some choices of a tree, a shield, a club, but he can also get some large rocks and go chuck them around the battlefield. So very similar to how the Beast Herds have their character that has, their large model that has a throne rock. Our throne rock is almost the same. Again, walk around the battlefield, chuck rocks at things, either at 4 or 5, depending if you're the veteran or not. But again, gets pricey, and if you become the veteran, you can only take 1 versus you could have had 2 giants if you would have taken common ones.
Yeah.
Black powder artillery, cannon, and a sort of off-strength volley gun from the Empire of Sonstal. What's unique about it is it has 2 shooting methodologies. If you choose the more shots, you get less range and a better chance it's going to blow up, versus less shots, higher strength, better range, doesn't blow up as much. So just, again, some artillery choices. Now we have another combination unit called torsion artillery. First is going to be the common ballista. This is the basic ballista out of the Orc and Goblin book, with a human crew versus a goblin crew.
Yeah.
Nothing is it, so that's that unit there. Again, nothing special, but again, limitations. You can only have 4 torsion units. Up to 3 of them can be ballistas. Dwarven Axe Thrower, again, designed to provide rules for that range of model. This is, to the best of my design ability, in line with what the Axe Thrower is. It's a flamethrower weapon that throws axes with lethal strike. Since it's not a true flamethrower, we wanted to discount its misfire versus, how flame weapons have a higher percentage chance of blowing up. We wanted to discount that. Has the ability to buy an intrinsic extra hit point in the Seeker Engineer for the crew, and then also provides an additional +1 to the misfire table to now completely eliminate what would have been the flame weapons misfire deficiency. Being the fact is they're Seekers. When you destroy this unit, you're going to get 1 more axe whack before they go away.
That's just hilarious.
Now, they're not going to go away, but as you'll notice, they're a veteran unit, so they're going to count against that veteran limitation that we talked about.
Yeah, and that's...
So, again, all designed to limit you from taking all these tough choices.
Yeah.
Halfling Catapult. This is homage to the Halfling Hot Pot that I truly love.
Everybody loves the Hot Pot. That's something I'm sure of.
It is. While it's a one-of-a-kind unit, if your army took some halflings, we're going to let you take a second one, because halflings like a lot of food. So if you've invested in a group of halflings, you can take a second hot pot.
Yeah.
The ability of this catapult's very similar to what you'd expect. Low strength, except for the center hit, and again, relatively comparable range.
Yeah.
Now, the Scorpio Ballista, while it is an infantry model and it's not listed as a war machine, these are to sort of be designed as human Giselles. What these are going to be single shot little long ballistas, or I'm going to call them heavy crossbows. They're move or fire, multiple wounds, D2, reload. The nice part is this weapon counts as a war machine for the engineer rules. So if you bought that engineer city-state model, you could park your engineer behind him and get this whole unit of up to 4 shooters, a shooty 3 unit versus their shooty 4. Now, I did have to take some time because it was questioned. In the 9th Age rule set, there is no mechanic to roll a D2. So I have provided you with rules of how do you roll a D2. Come on, simple, divide. I was told there's no mechanic in the 9th Age, so I've taken the time and told you how to roll a D2.
Fair enough.
All right, next unit is, again, to pay direct homage to a wonderful model that I think was probably one of the best war machines that came out of the Dogs of War set, and that was the Galloper gun. In this case, it's the Horse Artillery. While it is on a round base, as all war machines are, it has the ability to declare a flee reaction because it has a limber and caisson, so it's relatively easier to move. As you'll notice, the crew does not have move or fire. So if you choose to move your round base up to 6 inches, you can still shoot. Now remember, you're going to suffer the penalty for moving and shooting, so you're going to take that into consideration when you're firing your cannon. But if you've moved in your movement phase, -2 to your misfire table. So because you moved around, the chances of you blowing that gun up, if you misfire, it just became a lot harder not to blow the gun up.
Yeah, that's a nice penalty. I like that. Because you could have made it unwieldy and made it so that it really can't hit, but that's so much more boring. So, yeah,
correct.
Like
so this here is, you're going to get the -1 for moving, and remember, if you stay still and you just pivot doesn't occur in the movement phase for War Machine. Pivot occurs in the shooting phase. So it specifically says if you move during the owner's movement phase.
Yeah.
So again, to provide coverage, as well as the fact is, here's a war machine that can flee. Okay, so they flee. Now, additionally, they can vanguard 6 inches at the start of the game, and they count against your veteran. It's a light cannon, so only going to do D2 with clipped wings, shorter range, lesser strength. And again, similarly with its volley gun, if you're going to shoot grape shot at the enemy, strength 3, AP2.
Yep.
Last unit, and we're almost done, but last unit is the Accursed Legion. This is because of Von Kruger's Cursed Company, and the fact is, what a wonderful series of models, because you had goblins, you had orcs, you had rat people. Such a beautiful unit of models. I had to build rules for them, and here's what we have now.
I have a few of those models in my zombie unit.
Mm-hmm.
They are awesome.
They're just awesome. So we knew they were going to be undead, so we needed to cover ashes to ashes.
Yep.
We also knew the fact is that we weren't going to have a master in the army in the traditional sense. So we knew we had to deal with that. So first off, we said we got to include ashes to ashes because they're undead. Next, we said, what is this unit? Well, in the old game mechanic, if they killed something, they added a model to the unit. So in this case, we said, if any model in the unit causes a standard infantry or cavalry model to be removed as casualty, it adds a friendly model using the rules for raise health points. And the Knights Spirit, as we said, it can raise the unit above its starting value, won't restore the battlefield white if taken, which is this unit's unique character choice, but you replace it with the basic champion. And then to speak with how we dealt with the master, cannot use commanding presence, champion counts as master. So now we solved the master dilemma for ashes to ashes. Unit can march and counts as scoring as long as champion has not been removed as a casualty. And then we got into the fact is that the champion is included in this unit. So he's built into the price of 250 points because you have to have a champion to add the unit. But in this unit, you can buy the battlefield white, which is this unit's sort of special character. And here he is. He is a relatively tough character to deal with because while he only has 2 hit points and an Aegeus, he can become pretty tough because he has the ability to pick an attack attribute, either battle focus, lethal strike, multiple wounds. He can buy himself special items. He can get plate armor. He has Weapon Master, so you can kit this guy out with a great weapon and a halberd and paired weapons. Again, how much money do you want to spend to buy this guy? He is going to cover all of your bases as a character, even though he's not a character in a unit.
Yeah. Okay.
So that concludes everything, and I'm going to stop sharing and turn the screen back over to you, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I need to fix the layout of my little screen. Let's see here. There we go. That's more reasonable. Okay, so yeah, that was a pretty thorough run through, I'd say. But,
I figure you can edit what you don't want out in your video.
It's this is unlike the other faction-focused episodes I do. This is not something that most of the audience would be familiar with. So I think it's good to do a really thorough review of it. So. One of the reasons that I did this episode is that I was recommended by a friend of mine to look at this rule set because he wanted to use it at tournaments. So I'm very much keen to try and allow people to use this at my tournament next time I get a chance. So I very much appreciate this. And I think it's very important to note here that when you open this book, it looks super complex, and there's pages of these entries with super amount of rules and all of that. But it isn't. I think if you were to face up against it as the opponent, it's not that complex because of all this reuse of existing models and rules. Although I think all these different limitations, I think, will make it pretty tricky to build your own army, but then you have tools for that. But as long as you yourself can get through that, then the opponent won't suffer that much. So I think this is reasonable in that way. So I like that. Yeah.
Well, how about I get myself Go Mobile? I'll take you down to my workshop and show you what I lined up for you.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So here is just a small selection of my works. We have the slate. We have our Seeker Pirates.
Hang on, just a second.
Yep.
There we go. So those were the Seeker Pirates.
Seeker Pirates. We've got our Truthsayer, Emissary of Shadow, Belladonna, Volans. Here's our dragon in the background.
Yeah.
Now, as you can see, I have gaming tables. We've got, this is my Flames of War stuff. I just wanted to point out, here we've got the tank from a very good movie with Clint Eastwood. I hope you can recognize it. It's got the little speaker on the side.
I'm not sure of the English name, Kelly's Heroes. Kelly's Hjältar in Swedish, but I'm not sure what it's called in English. Yep. All the Burning Bridges.
I built the Fury tank from the movie Fury. So this is my Flames of War stuff, to give you an idea there. Over here, it's Battletech time. And again, these are a lot of the original Raoul Partha castings that I've taken some time and developed. So we've got claws built into this model, just fun stuff. Here we've just got some exciting Cruel Seas game I'm trying to learn. It's got a lot of fun stuff. And I'll finish over on this side of the gaming table. Bolt action. I've got some sailors coming out of their LVCP, as you can see, all set and ready to go. And then, just to give you an idea of the wall of miniatures, we'll start over here. Don't ignore the Legos. But just
I have some on my shelves too.
Row upon row of miniatures, and we get into other games. Let's see here. There we go. More miniatures. I mean, just shelves and shelves. And as you can see behind there, classic board games, classic role-playing games. And let's see. We gotta see some more knights, horsemen, models. And you don't understand, this is just models that I don't have room for in my bins and boxes, because I've probably got, let's see, there's a whole army pack of more models, and there's shelves and shelves of models over there. So, again, the gaming basement got 2 different gaming tables. I normally would have groups down here when we're gaming. There'd probably be 6 people down here, because I've got a couple card tables that I can turn over and put another one of these green tops on, so I can get 3 gaming tables going at once, so you could have up to 6 people battling it out on various other terrain tops. So
nice.
Just lots of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a very brief tour of, I would say, my basement, but of the basement. Hope it was enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. And it shows off the Dogs of War models as well, which is, of course, the reason for this whole project. So that's nice to see.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, I guess many of those models are quite hard to come by these days.
Oh, they're exceedingly rare.
But there are options out there on the market for many of the more common units, at least the pikemen and mercenaries and things like that are not that rare, I think, from different manufacturers and such. So yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think we'll start to wrap this up at that. I can just briefly mention how my painting has been going. So I worked on this little lady. Most of the cloth is done. Did some texture here on the main piece. Quite happy with it. She's gonna look quite battle hardened, I think. So it's getting there. Lots still to do. And yeah. Do you have anything last you want to add about the ground companies? What's the next step for it? Do you imagine?
So we have the book out in a playtest mode with probably about 50 users that have asked to look at it. We had some traction. Unfortunately, the tournament that was going to allow it this year was canceled.
Yeah.
So sort of feel a little bad there. We're hopeful that a smaller local Midwest tournament this fall may use it at their event, but they're also looking to also include the other 3 sanctioned supplemental books in that event as well. So I'm hopeful that it'll be a good opportunity to get feedback against not only the core 16, but those other 3 supplemental books as well.
Yeah. If I were to include this in my tournament, and I think I will, then I always include the supplement books. I think those are awesome. So
I think they're very well done too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I will allow the giants as well because I love giants. So.
As I said, yeah, me too.
Okay, but that's cool to hear that it's a living project that's still being worked upon with quite a lot of following them as well. That's awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
But I think we'll wrap this up at that. So I can thank you very much for coming on and being on the show today.
Absolutely. I had a great time, and as I said, I really like to help the community out. So if any of your viewers want more information, I'm sure you'll include my contact information in this podcast.
Yeah, and I'll include a link to the project to the Homebrew page as well. So
perfect.
You can get engaged if you want to. And I want to thank everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
The piece of paper on your desk, is that a beer list?
This one, a beer list. It's a coaster of sorts. It's to protect the table from the paint. Right. It's some really old piece. There's a map over it, so I don't really know what it is.
Okay.
But these are lists of old companies that I think most of them have closed down by now, and contact information for them. I don't really know. You're the first person to ask that. I wonder if my audience has been curious about it.
It's. I was reading it. It sort of looked like a beer list because I was seeing like numbers. I'm like, okay, is that the alcohol volume? Because I know in Europe, in Europe, all of the beer lists have to list what the percentage of alcohol by volume is. So I started seeing those numbers. I'm like, I think, is that a beer list? Okay. Well, I thank you again for taking the time to talk to me today as well.
Happy to do it. And might have you on some time again, maybe after we had a tournament with this, and we can talk about how that went and all of that.
Great.
So yeah. Again, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.